wonderful to have a nice, cool morning? But not cold enough you have to wear a coat. That's nice. I like the in-between season. Good morning to everyone, like I just said. And also to our spiritual family that is watching us on live stream from home. We welcome you also. We're so glad you're here. If anyone is present for the first time, or you've only been coming here for a short time and you have questions, there's Stella with a gold stole on. She will have a packet of information for you and a Unity of Springfield coffee mug. So if you'll stop by and see her. Please check in on Facebook so everybody knows where you are. They won't be calling you or anything. And then if you would, please silence your phone. Today's flowers are donated by Jennifer Hall and her sister Amy Hassan in celebration of their mom, Carolyn Bulig's birthday, and in memory of Carolyn's sister, Aunt Jeannie, who recently made her transition. Please join me in the mission statement. The words are on the screen. Our mission is to encourage and inspire spiritual and personal growth by empowering each other to be authentically all that we came here to be. Let's speak together the affirmation for today's daily word. I awaken to and express my spiritual gifts. I am open to new ideas and alert to divine inspiration. I recognize God as a source of divine ideas, as well as a source of my ability to act on these ideas. Many people use their spiritual gifts to contribute toward a higher good on earth. I seek to discern my own gifts, develop them, and express them fully. I am energized as I identify a calling in which to invest my time and talents. I feel the inner peace that comes from being aligned with my purpose. The presence of God in me inspires me to express my spiritual gifts, and I am grateful. We are all channels through which God's work is done. If you'll join me in the scripture from 1 Corinthians 12:4. Now there are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit. It is the same God who activates all of them in every one. And let's speak the affirmation. I awaken to express my spiritual gifts. As Sue comes up and rings the prayer bowl, please hold the following people in your prayerful thoughts for their highest and best. Raymond, Ashley, Elsie, Lee, Gracie, Pam, John, Chris, Greg, Jean, Diane, Mike, Deanna, Steve, Cassie, Oliver, Erica, Debbie, Tasha, Kate, Aaron, Julie, and Joachima, and anyone else that comes to mind. As we direct our focus to the sounds and vibrations coming from the prayer bowl, flowing throughout the sanctuary, And out to our friends on live stream, we take a deep breath, hold, and exhale. As we move our awareness to prayer and meditation, center your attention on the crown of your head, relaxing as you move down to your forehead, eyes, ears, lips, tongue, and jaw. Roll your neck and shoulders to release any tension or tightness. Follow the relaxation as it flows down your arms, elbows, wrists, hands, fingers. Feel and see the relaxation taking place in your body as you move down your spine and lower back. Relax your thighs, knees, calves, ankles, feet, and toes. Take a deep breath in, hold, and exhale. We pray affirming the highest and best for all those placed on the prayer list by their concerned loved ones. We also include ourselves, our families, our friends, and neighbors. For all on this planet, we affirm wonderful health, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. We affirm financial security to fulfill all needs and desires with more than enough to give and share. Harmonious, loving relationships with family and friends. Peace of mind and faith. We surround not only our spiritual community, but also our city, our state, our nation, all nations with prayers for equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. We visualize peace among all in our country, peace in all countries, peace all around the world, and peace in all governments. We affirm in love and truth that all inhabitants of the United States unite to support our government for the highest and best of all. In faith, we accept that we are worthy and unconditionally loved by God. We are infinitely blessed by God's gifts to us of life, love, and connection. With an unlimited gratitude, we share our loving, accepting, and welcoming energy within this spiritual community to the whole world and everyone in it. God is the source of divine ideas, as well as the source of our ability to act on these ideas. We choose to use our spiritual gifts to contribute toward a higher good on earth. We seek to discern our own gifts, develop them, and express them fully. The presence of God in us inspires us to express our spiritual gifts. We are open, receptive, and responsive channels through which God's work is done in the silence.
Good morning. How are we doing today? Good. We're starting to see a little bit of change in color out there. You know, nature is so beautiful, isn't it? Yes. No, this Wayne's like, isn't it? Yeah. Well, it's good to see you all today. Good to have those of you who are online. Good to have you with us this morning in this way. So grateful that we have this opportunity for people to be with us even when they can't be here in person. So I want to start with actually a poem. I've shared this before, but I just love this so much. And it's from Paracelsus from Robert Browning, and I've shared this lately. But its truth is within ourselves. It takes no rise from outward things, whatever you may believe. There's an inmost center in us all where truth abides in fullness, and around, wall upon wall, the gross flesh hems it in. This perfect, clear perception, which is truth. A baffling and perverting carnal mesh binds it and makes all error. And to know rather consists in opening out a way whence the imprisoned splendor may escape, than in effecting entry for a light supposed to be without. I love that because to me it makes perfect sense that when we come into the world, unless we have really super enlightened people around us, that when they talk about the gross flesh that hems it in, it's all of these ideas and beliefs that cover up what is the reality, what is actually the truth of us. And that inmost center is in every single one of us. Yes? Yes. Anybody relate to this at all? And in Unity, we call this inmost center the kingdom of heaven. And many other ancient teachings also talk about this inmost center. So in the past weeks, we've talked about how do we access this kingdom of heaven, how do we what is keeping us from experiencing the kingdom of heaven, and what is the kingdom of heaven experience even like? So I want to first remind us about what this kingdom of heaven experience is. This kingdom of heaven experience is when we start living more from that place of love. What we sang about this morning, I choose love. And it's when we are able to bring ourselves back to that center of love in a gentle way. Does anybody ever get off of that track of love when things happen in our lives? And, you know, and I found lately for myself that sometimes where I struggle is in how do I set a strong boundary and still stay in a place of love. That's kind of hard, isn't it, sometimes, especially when somebody's showing up in a negative way in your experience. But what I know is that we can get there, and it's okay, and I love how that we gently bring ourselves back. Because we all get off center at some point. And so when we allow ourselves to be gentle with ourselves and say, you know, it's okay, you got a little off there, you got a little crazy, it's okay. That kingdom of heaven experience is when we can come back to that center and be in that place of love. Also, the kingdom of heaven experience is when we live more from a place of trust. And the acronym I made up a long time ago for trust is totally rely upon spirits. Ta-da! Because it always happens, you know, when we let go and trust and we truly give it over and we get out of our own heads and our own manipulation and our own control. It's amazing what this spirit can do, what divine intelligence can do through us and for us. So if I experience peace in the midst of chaos, then I am experiencing the kingdom of heaven. You know, if so we talked about the parables with the great teacher Jesus, and where he speaks, and let's remember that he was speaking to people of that time that were incredibly poor. This, you know, there was a vast chasm in the wealthy and the incredibly poor. So when he was talking and using the parables of the treasure that was hidden in the field and the pearl of great value, this was something he knew that they could really relate to, because if they would go and they would find land, or they would find a treasure buried, or a pearl, they knew that it would totally change their lives, and it would totally change their lives for the better. You know, they looked at this as being like, this would be the ultimate thing. And sometimes we do that too, right? We think if we had enough money, if we had the house, if we had the car, if we had the boat, if we had the particular job, that's what's going to make us happy. So he was using this to say, this, my friends, is what the kingdom of heaven experience is. And the cool thing is, you don't have to go searching outside of yourselves for it, because the kingdom of heaven is where? The kingdom of heaven is within us. So the kingdom of heaven experience is a very expansive experience. So, so what would keep us from experiencing the kingdom of heaven? Well, in the parables, he talked about the men that came in the night to the vineyard, and they planted weeds in the vineyard. And so what these weeds represent for us might be other people's ideas that they have given us that aren't necessarily true. And if there's any ideas that anybody has given you, or you have taken on to be true about that you're not enough, that you are not valuable just as you are, those are some weeds that got planted in your vineyard. And that keeps us out of the kingdom of heaven experience, right? If we're not feeling like we're enough, or we don't have value. Also, the weeds are things like fear and anger and resentment and the need to be right. Unrighteous judgment. These things are things that keep us out of the kingdom of heaven experience. How do we know? Because these things make us feel contracted, don't they? When we're in these emotions, and I'm not talking about, we're going to have these feelings, we're going to have these emotions, and that's normal. It's when we live in them for days on end. Anybody ever do that? You know, that we know that feeling. You feel it in your chest, you feel it in your brain, you feel it in your body, and you certainly feel it in your emotions. But we're not in the kingdom of heaven experience when we're in that state. So how do we access the kingdom of heaven? So we talked about things like having a daily spiritual practice. Now I want to tell you, when I talk about a daily spiritual practice, my friends, it's going to be different for as many people as are here today. There are going to be that many differing spiritual practices. And so find what works for you. You know, for some people, it's going to be getting up in the morning, and it's going to be taking time to meditate and pray and read something. Or maybe for someone, it's going to be journaling. Maybe for someone, it's going to be quilting. Or maybe for someone, it's going to be gardening. Or, you know, maybe listening to some uplifting music. Whatever it is, have something that daily you're feeding yourself. And you know why? Because we have so many things all around us that are pulling us out of that, right? And so it's important that we're doing what we can do to stay centered as much as we can. Because the more that we practice, the quicker we're going to get back there when we get kind of off track. So also keeping uplifting things in your environment. You know, you'll notice here we have words. These words are basically because of me, because I'm a wordy person. But we have words around, and keep pictures in your environment that keep you uplifted. Listen to inspiring and uplifting music. I mean, listening to that song this morning, listening to our songs that we start with, those things, they make you feel good, don't they? Why wouldn't we do more of that? That helps us to get into that kingdom of heaven experience. Also, just making the choice that, you know what, today I'm going to do my best to stay awake and stay conscious. And when those weed thoughts start to come in, I'm going to be aware enough to say, get behind me. because you are not invited into my environment. And like I said, for many, it's just taking the time to be still. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about a way that we can experience the kingdom of heaven. And that way is through service. How many of us already give ourselves out in service? I'm going to say every single one of us can raise our hands here. Yeah. So first I want to talk about what is the nature of God. And in 1 John 4:16, it tells us that God is love, and all who live in love live in God, and God lives in them. We know this, right? We've talked about this. And, again, the great teacher, Jesus, and I shared this last week, he referred to God as what? Father. And he said things like, I and the Father are one. And when you see me, you see the Father, right? And how did he start the great prayer? Our Father. And so he was clearly saying there that all of us have this Father, this God, this love within us. That this is actually our true nature. It's who we really are, is this love. Now, I thought about this. He could have said, I and love are one. And when you see me, you see love. Whew. And I thought about, imagine opening the great prayer with our love, which art in heaven, which is where? Within us. You talk about a uniting prayer. Our love, that we are, that all of us are, whether we remember it or not, which is within every single one of us, and it's the same in every single one of us. All of us have the same access to this presence and this power, this life-changing love inside of us. Charles Fillmore says that love loves for the sake of loving, and it's not concerned with who or what it loves, nor is it concerned with a return of love. That it loves because that's its nature, it's shining forth its nature to do so. It's my favorite, I always share that's my favorite definition of love. But that's what it is, that we, to get to the place where we can love just because that's who we are, and we're not concerned if we get a return of that love, but we're going to give that love out in whatever way that we can. That's life-changing, my friends, and that's what's going to change our world, is when we can get there more often. So to serve is to pour ourselves out in love, which leads me here, and that is to what is the primary teaching of every religion. So we're going to look at this. In Christianity, it says, in everything, do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law and the prophets. In Zoroastrianism, it says, do not do unto others whatever is injurious to yourself. In Judaism, it says, what is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. This is the whole Torah. All the rest is commentary. What? That's huge. In Sikhism, I am a stranger to no one, and no one is a stranger to me. Indeed, I am a friend to all. In Hinduism, this is the sum of duty. Do not do to others what would cause pain if done to you. In Jainism, one should treat all creatures in the world as one would like to be treated. Now notice here, this goes beyond humans. All creatures. Islam, not one of you truly believes until you wish for others what you wish for yourself. Buddhism, treat not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful. Taoism, regard your neighbor's gain as your own gain and your neighbor's loss as your own loss. As we give, so shall we receive. What we give out comes back to us. whatever way you read this, because some say do and some say don't do, it's all the same thing. Treat other people, treat other beings the way that you would like to be treated in whatever circumstance they're in. And you know what that's going to take? That's going to take empathy, and it's going to take a listening ear. It's going to take a willingness, and I can't remember exactly how this meme went, but it talked about don't tell somebody that I don't know what it's like for you because I haven't walked in your shoes. Ask them to tell you what it's like for them to walk in their shoes. Big difference, right? And so when we're willing to talk to somebody who's experiencing something different or is different from us and say, tell me about what you are experiencing, then we can be more present to whatever their needs might be, if there are some needs there. Of course, we know Luke 6:38 says, given it will be given to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, and oozing out. But it's true. It's like, and it's not just about what it is that we're giving, it's the consciousness with which we are giving. We want to be in that consciousness, and I'll talk more about that in a second. And Herman Melville said that we cannot live only for ourselves. 1,000 fibers connect us with our fellow men, and among those fibers, as sympathetic threads, our actions run as causes, and they come back to us as effects. We are connected in ways that we can't even possibly begin to fathom, but we are absolutely connected. So I was listening to a TED Talk on service, and this one was by a girl named Jamie Parker. And she said, service is connecting your passion to someone else's need. So when the daily word was about spiritual gifts, we all have something that we can give, that we can do an act of service. And she says, instead of thinking of service as something that you're doing for someone who is less fortunate than you, think of it as a partnership or as an exchange. And that's where I say the consciousness, how we're seeing another person that we may be reaching out to fill a need for. We don't want to look at it as though, oh, you poor thing, let me help you. It's a partnership, and it's an exchange, and it's an exchange of energy or a partnership of creating a loving energy. Because again, when I do it from a place of love, when I do it from a place of we are the same, and I would hope that maybe somebody would be here for me if I was in the same situation as you, it's a totally different thing than, oh, you poor thing, let me help you. No, we're all one. Brene Brown says, I define connection as the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. I love that. That's true connection. It's not where we're burning ourselves out. It's where we recognize we have an infinite reservoir of everything that we need to be in relationship, true relationship with each other. So service is about, Jamie goes on to say, service is about paying attention to your outside world and seeing where you can perhaps fill a need. So at this point, I don't think I need to go deeply into the benefits of service, but I will tell you this, that it has been proven that when we get outside of ourselves, that everything, our mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical, everything benefits when we are giving in a healthy way. I mean, it just, and that's one of the things when, the things that I've read, when people are feeling really low, the best thing you can do is get outside of yourself and go serve someone else. And it truly does make a difference. Now, I want to say here, service isn't just one thing. And we're not talking here about, man, I've got to go out there and I have to make this big difference, for people in the world. And you can do that, and that's awesome. But it might be helping a neighbor rake their leaves. Or I was going to say, shoveling their drives, but we don't really get enough snow to shovel drives anymore. I probably shouldn't say that, should I? It might be serving food to the unsheltered community, or it might be holding the door open for someone. Brenda and I came in together today, and Brenda opened the door for me, and I just felt so good about that. It might be greeting someone that when they come in our front door. And how many of you love to be greeted? I love to be greeted when I come in the front door. That makes me feel so good. It might be helping someone to build a house through Habitat for Humanity. Or it might be letting someone in front of you in line. Or it might be participating in a 5K to raise money for a charity that is dear to your heart. Or it might even be creating an opportunity like a 5K to raise money for a charity that is dear to your heart. It might be taking a meal to someone who is grieving, or maybe has just gotten out of the hospital, or has been ill. Or it might be just listening to someone's story. Or it might be teaching someone how to use their features on their iPhone. And it might be giving a ride, thank you, Al, and it might be going to a nursing home and spending time with someone, playing cards or reading to them, or things like that. Or it might be putting birdseed out for the birds. Or, it might be being up here on a Sunday morning and playing your instruments because you love to play. Or it might be being in the back and doing the sound, or doing the live stream, or doing the PowerPoint. I mean, there are so many ways that we can be in service. And I want to say here, they are all important. We have somebody who goes to the grocery store for us when we're low on items in our community cabinet. And takes the money that is donated and goes and makes sure that that's filled up. I mean, there are so many ways that we can be in service to each other, and to our spiritual community, and to the community at large. So I'm going to invite Lisa Landrigan to come up. Lisa is our administrative assistant, but today she's going to put on two other hats. She is also our volunteer coordinator, and she is also our coordinator for our crisis cold weather shelter. And yeah, you can say woohoo to that. And so, as I was really contemplating this, the two areas that came up for me was one within our community and one that reaches out beyond our walls. And the first one is our compassionate care team for our spiritual community. Now, I love that in the word community is the word unity. And so how can we bring more unity into our spiritual community? So we talked about that when someone does go through a loss or has an illness, we would love to have a team of people that would be willing to make food, or go purchase food, or donate money for food and take that to the people who could use that. Phone calls, if you haven't seen somebody in a few weeks, we would love to have people who would be willing to make phone calls to people just to check in and say, hey, just haven't seen you in a while, would love to let you know that we miss you. We talked about sending cards out, which Rose Utley does for us, and I've been the benefactor of the cards, and I love getting the cards, and I'm grateful for that. Or how about a hospital or a home visit or a nursing home visit? Can you think of anything else that would be in our compassionate care team? Or you guys, can you think of other things?
Yeah, Stella is our team leader of our compassionate team.
Yay,
And
Stella.
We were talking earlier, and she's got lots of ideas. She wants, to get a group together and have meetings and make this really big and powerful for our spiritual community. So we have a sign-up sheet out in the foyer, so please consider being part of that team with Stella.
Yes, and we appreciate you so much, Stella, with that. And here's the great thing about, getting on a team. If you're not available when you're called, it's okay. When we have a group of people, and if you, I'm not going to be the one that's going to make a meal. It's just not my gift. But I could go buy something, or, just know that that's why we have a team. So I really encourage you. There is going to be a sign-up sheet. There is a sign-up sheet in the hallway for the Compassionate Care team. Now, the other thing that we do that I know that many people have not been here a long time, and so you haven't gone through yet our season of our Crisis Cold Weather Shelter. And our Crisis Cold Weather Shelter season is November 1st through the end of March. And we have people come that are in the unsheltered community and spend the night here when the temperature is below 32 between the hours of
10 p.m. and 4 a.m.
10 p.m. and 4 a.m. Yeah. And wasn't it like November last year was one of our busier?
The first 2 weeks of November last year, we were open 15 days in a row. So rarely happens in November, but it did last year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So thank you for that. So for those of you who haven't seen, this is what our Crisis Cold Weather Shelter looks like when it's set up and when we have some people here. This is an outreach that is very, very, very dear to our hearts. And I'm going to tell you, it takes a village in order for this to be a successful program. And you know what we really desire? Is we really desire that every night that is going to be that temperature, that we have everything that we need and all the volunteers that we need to be open, to give warm, safe shelter to how many people? 30-ish? 30
yeah.
people. And it's especially important this year because one of the churches is no longer going to do it. So that's like 20 or 30 less,
35 people.
35 less
And
beds.
pets.
And they allowed pets. So it's vitally important that we keep this going every single night. So some of the ways that we can support this.
So, volunteerism isn't always what you might think. It's not just the people that are inside the shelter interacting with our guests and helping during that time we're open. It takes a lot before we're open and a lot after we're open to make our shelter work. So we have hospitality that comes in, that gets things ready for our guests to arrive. We have our overnight volunteers. And then in the mornings, we have to have somebody that takes our laundry over to Enterprise, all of the blankets and pillowcases. We don't have to do our own laundry. Enterprise Laundry that does all of the laundry for the hospitals does the laundry for the shelters for free.
Yeah.
So all we need is someone to come pick up the bags of laundry and drop them off, pick up the laundry from the day before and bring it back. That's how we keep our blankets stocked and in rotation. And then we also need people to come in and clean. So for a couple hours in the morning, 2 to 3 people come in, and within an hour to an hour and a half can have the place cleaned up and ready for the next night. So, it's food. It's our big bin out there. We started our 8 items in 8 weeks. It's going amazing. Thank you all for bringing stuff in. But in reality, as much as you think that looks like out there in the bin, for a month that we're open, over half the month, we'll take most of that stuff out of there. So as you can imagine, it takes a lot. But just like the song that John sang this morning, Blood Brothers, what you need, I need too. So just keep that in mind when you think about our population. It's not, like Sue said, it's not, oh, poor you, let me help you. It's here, I need this, so I know you must need it too. So gloves, socks, coats, hats, all the things.
Jeans and boots and, underwear, it'd be nice to have new underwear for people. But, she was all, Amy and Lisa and I were talking about this, and Amy said, even if, having food for our guests when they come we don't have to do that, but it just happens. And they appreciate so much having a hot meal. And so if you are like me, maybe, and cooking is not your number one gift, go buy a frozen lasagna. And let's have some of those in the back for when maybe we don't have meals. But you can make soup, you can make casseroles. I mean, they love coming and having hot meals. And what a difference that makes for them to have this hot meal prepared by loving hands.
And even if you think 30 people, you know, I can't cook for 30 people.
Yeah.
If you can cook for 10, maybe somebody else can cook for
Yes.
10, and somebody else can cook for 10, and then we can feed everybody. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't matter how big or how small, it's all very important, and it makes a huge difference in people's lives. It really
It does.
does.
And just to be involved in it, I know the first night that Paula and I came to host, you know, we're just like in awe of all of this and just all the different people that came in and all the different personalities, but all the needs were the same. I mean, insofar as just some of the essentials. And we go through jeans and gloves and coats and hot hands and then Tylenol, like just all kinds of things. So October 11th at 6 o'clock, Lisa is going to be doing a volunteer training. And please come if you're just even interested. She's not one that's going to attack you and say, oh, you're here, you got to help. Just come and learn more about it. And you know, when we talk about the volunteers, we cannot do this without our volunteers who are here to help host, which is 2 volunteers who come and get everything set up. Usually it's set up, but then they're here to greet everybody, get everybody signed in. But we also need 2 volunteers every night to stay overnight. And you take shifts sleeping. And so, you know, if that's something that you could do, we would appreciate that. Anything else that you can think of?
Well, this will be our 3rd year of doing the Crisis Cold Weather Shelter, and in the past 2 years, there has not been a single night that shelters have been open that we weren't able to open with them.
Yeah.
So let's make it a 3rd, and I'll see you all on October 11th.
Thank you, Lisa. And thank you, everybody. Thank you for your willingness to be a part of this spiritual community, that we can come together as a community and be here for each other, but also to reach out beyond these walls and to be there for our unsheltered guests when November 1st hits. So namaste, namaste. All right. So now is our wonderful opportunity to be in support of Unity of Springfield. And there are many ways that you can donate. You can give through Venmo, which I love Venmo, at Unity of Springfield. You can download the Tithely app. You can give online at unityofspringfield.org, or we accept cash and check. So let's take our gifts in our hands, and if you give any of the other ways, just take the energy of that and let's bless our gifts together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And before we go on, and I know you're going to make this announcement, but I do want to give a plug myself for Daniel Nahmod. For those of you who don't know Daniel, his concert is this coming Saturday night. And I know Mitch has expressed it. Daniel is one of those entertainers that brings his entire soul into what he does. I've never experienced, I mean, I love all of our New Thought musicians, but Daniel gives out everything, and you will be lifted, you will be inspired, you will be so grateful that you came. So Saturday night, come to
Absolutely. I got saved the last time he was here. It was great. Yeah. There wasn't even an altar call. That's how good it was.
I don't think that's going to help.
That's how good it was. No, they don't want me in heaven. No.